Hey, what's going on? You're a part of the A Game. I'm Rob Akampora from my bunker right on the Jersey Shore here in New Jersey. The handsome guy to my right, there's a reason why he's here. To properly introduce him, Ming, give me the teaser video that he has out on YouTube right now, if you wouldn't mind.
Welcome home, so glad you're here. Please take my room, it's always clear. No for real.
Sums it up perfectly. And by the way, there is some very cool merch that we're going to talk about that goes with that, because I noticed that the mask has got the album title Nito on there. I thought that was a very cool idea, Henry.
Thank you, man.
Henry Hall is here. Thanks for bringing your A Game. Thanks for doing this, my friend.
Yeah, of course. So it's a pleasure to be here. Happy to be chatting.
Funny story how our lives have kind of crossed together. Ming, there is a photo of a older gentleman, and I do mean that in the nicest terms. If you mind putting the photo up of Peter Honorati, there he is. Pete from SWAT from a couple seasons ago. You can see him occasionally on This Is Us on NBC and the flashback segments as the father. But Peter I interviewed about 3-4 years ago when I was hosting a morning show, and we just kind of clicked, became friends on Facebook. He posted your video on Facebook. And it's the video for 13 Besties, which we'll talk more about as well. This is the new single from the album. And I caught wind of it, and I'm like going, Peter, who is this guy? He's like, oh, he's a friend of, of the family. And I went, I think I better reach out to him. And he's like, good idea. And thanks to Peter, I don't think I would have discovered you. So I think that's a great thing, what he did.
Massive shout out to Peter and the whole Honorati clan for that. Yeah.
Good. They're great people. I mean, man. Peter's done some good indie work here in New Jersey. He's true to his roots here in New Jersey. He'll be coming on this show at some point, I'm sure.
Great. Love it.
Yeah. But it got me to listen to your music, and you are a very interesting musician because you are really molding two very different sides of the equation to create your sound. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but there's this old school feel with new school. And the best way I can sum this up is, by the way, subscribe to his YouTube channel. It is worth doing. He's got some great covers on there as well. And that sets up how I'm going to introduce Henry and who he may be. Because two covers that really show the dynamic of who you are. At one point, you were doing a performance, and you're doing Dream Lover, the Bobby Darin song. But then the next minute, you do a video, and of all songs you picked for the Jesus and Mary Chain, because I'm a huge Jesus and Mary Chain fan, I'm sitting there going, he did Sidewalking. I'm like, wow. But it really shows the dichotomy of, like, you're basically part Dion, part Jeff Buckley, throw in a mix of Radiohead, and that's you.
Wow, thank you, man. That's good company. I would love to have. I was like, I'd love to sit down for like a very long 8-course meal with those musicians. That would be fun company.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, we lost Jeff way too soon too. That's for sure.
Indeed. Yeah, man. Thank you. I mean, it's funny. I'm glad. I don't really know. That's sort of the hardest question for me when people ask me to define my music. So I'm glad that you sort of set it up for me.
No problem.
You did my work for me. Yeah.
I think it's also unfair at times, because I'm guilty of this. It's been somebody who's been on the radio, somebody who's done interviews. We do have a tendency of trying to put artists in a box. I'm not saying it's right, but I think it's a reference point. And that's what happens when we kind of say, well, who does this person sound like? Why do we know that sound?
Yeah.
And in this case with you, it is very unique. And obviously the influences, where do you go from having like 60s and 70s harmonies to that 90s alternative edge, mold it together and kind of go, here I am, I'm Henry Hall. And by the way, I've got a great sense of humor too.
I'll start rattling off the one-liner jokes after I give my explanation here. Let's see. I mean, it's a good question. Honestly, my dad was a huge influence on my music taste as a young kid discovering music. We had Simon and Garfunkel compilation in the car, a CD that we listened to, just burned the crap out of that CD, listening to it over and over and over and over again. So that's honestly because of my dad. I heard all those, harmony driven groups from the 60s and 70s and 50s even too.
Okay.
And then he introduced me to the Smiths. which was massive for any angsty
Yes.
person. I was
Yeah.
going to say teen, but they work for all ages.
I was about to say, Dad trained you well in Morrissey. I'll give you that. There you go.
Yeah, for sure. And then I kind of, I got into like that alternative music, the sort of new age post-punk stuff from Manchester, from listening to the Smiths, and kind of delved into that. Right. And I think, growing up in LA too, I lived in New York for what my family's from New York, and I lived in New York for a while, but something that I missed living in the city was being in my car. I love to drive. Yeah. And you can sing as loud as you want in the car, and exactly. be a crazy person in the car, which really I kind of attribute that space to why I sing the way I do, because I could really just belt the harmonies along to what I was listening to, and I was completely alone and completely private. I mean, once I was a couple years into living in New York and I felt a little more comfortable, I was like, oh, you actually can do whatever you want on the street in New York. It doesn't matter. So once I kind of learned that, I was like, yeah, all right. And I kind of I definitely was like a guy singing to himself on the street, like walking downtown or whatever, one of the people you're like, when you walk by. And that was probably me at some point. So apologies.
Hey, we all start somewhere. That's
yeah,
exactly.
For sure. So I'd say that's sort of why I am the way I am.
No, let me say this. Henry Hall's way that he is really cool. And if you go get the album Nito, you're going to find that the man hits some incredible high notes, which I don't know how you do that. Not every guy has the ability.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Well, was there a discovery point? It's like going, wait a minute. How did I hit that note? Wait a second. Because forgive me for interrupting. That's where the comparison to me with Jeff, because Jeff Buckley could hit those high ranging notes like in a song like Glass Goodbye. So that's where I hear that influence, that you are one of those rare guys that can really hit that note and hit it well. Yeah.
I mean, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that, I listened to a lot of female singers too, growing up. A lot of Patsy Cline, a lot of Whitney Houston, Loretta Lynn. It's kind of all over the place, but these people who and even too, like with listening to the Smiths, I would always want to sing the third harmony, like the higher harmony.
Right.
And that just like felt natural to me.
Sure.
And I don't know, I found that was just the most expressive way to sing. And I could, singing a little higher, I can sing a little louder. It wasn't, and honestly, it wasn't until really kind of the last 3 or 4 years that I started developing my lower register. I was like, oh yeah, I can chill out and like not sing really, really high all the time. So yeah, I mean, I just, that it was just sort of a natural thing for me to sing up there.
Henry Hall's debut CD is out there. It's called Nito. It has been a few years in the making. As a matter of fact, that one of the first videos you did was like about 5-6 years ago. So this has been an interesting process to release a couple of EPs, and then finally, it's like, yes, I've given birth. It is here. it's
my baby.
Yeah, your baby. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're a father.
That's exactly. Actually, I got a notification from Spotify when the album came out. It's like, you're a dad.
You're a dad. Oh my God. Yeah. I want to talk about a couple of songs on the album because it'll go back to trying to understand. And also, one thing about Henry's videos, this is where you really do shine. And in one of the videos for Guy, Ming, he's out on the waves surfing, if you mind pulling that up. That is really you. That is you. I stopped the video to get that shot, but I'm like, that's really you just doing your thing out there, which I'm
wiggling.
Like, whoa. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the one thing I noticed about your videos, it's like, it is very artistic. So I gather this is where your parents who are actors, I would imagine that helps you in the video process.
For sure, especially this time around, I got to actually collaborate with both of them, which was I had cold feet about a little bit because I was like, is it gonna angsty teen Henry going to come out and I'm like, Mom, stop, like let me do what I want, while I'm while we're making these videos? Or is it going to be okay? And it ended up being fantastic. I mean, my dad directed Guy and 13 Besties.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, and my mom was around too for the shoot. For what we can call her an associate producer.
Associate producer, absolutely.
Yeah. And it was cool, man. I mean, because they're professional actors and filmmakers, they know what shots work and what don't.
Right.
And for them, nothing against everyone else who I've collaborated with on videos. Obviously, everyone I've worked with has been super talented. But for my parents, a small music video shoot is like a godsend because it's way chiller than anything they're used to. Normally they're responsible for like 50 people,
right?
If they're directing something, or if my dad's directing something, he's got to think about a lot of different moving parts. But for this, it was just like me, my dad,
right,
the DP, and like one other guy, and we just cruised.
There's one other shot from that video, and I don't know whose idea was this. Ming, he's in the water. There it is. And I'm hoping that it was like the water was at least a little warm that day. I know out in the West Coast it's probably a lot different than what I'm used to on the East Coast with the ocean water.
Yeah, I would say it's, if I were to compare it to the shore, like it's like a September, like late September.
Okay, that gives me an idea. Absolutely.
Yeah. But my aunt and uncle have a place on the Jersey Shore, so I've been out there.
Whereabouts?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I couldn't tell you because I don't know the area.
Okay.
That well. but it's close enough to the ocean that it was like a 5-minute drive to the water.
Oh, that's great.
So it's pretty chill.
Yeah.
When I lived in New York, I actually lived with them. They live in the city. But anyways, yeah, that was definitely my dad's idea. Sort of a self-baptizing. That's kind of what that looks like. It looks like I'm being held by like an invisible priest.
But what's interesting about the song, and this is where your lyrics really come into play. Or and if I can quote one part of the song, I wrote it down.
Sure.
I can never do something that's malicious. That's absurd. Are you impressed that I use that word?
Yeah. Guy, man, it's a funny tune because it incorporates a lot of, it's the most electronic in terms of the instrumental arrangement of any song that I've ever done, really. But the lyrics are sort of the most human in a weird way, or the most sort of like concrete that of pretty much any song I've ever done. I feel like it's like a guy who's mansplaining, and in his mansplaining, he proves he's like destroying himself.
Right.
He's like he's being hypocritical and like
proving
his own point wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole irony of it, where it's like, he's trying to show I'm sensitive. I am the guy, but yet I want you to apologize for me to be feeling offended right now because I'm like, okay, but you know what? We know a lot of people like that. So I mean,
myself included. It's honestly like it's something that I've definitely been guilty of, and like I feel like every guy or anyone has been before. Guilty.
Sadly.
And man. I mean, it was that was a fun one to write for sure.
And it really shows that it's like humor and depth coming together, because it's like you're bringing out a good point, but you're kind of laughing at it, but you're laughing with you, not at you, but we're laughing with you because we know, we've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, for sure, there are a lot of layers to it musically and like contextually as well with lyrics. I mean, and I think that sort of split of, look how great I am. I deserve an apology, but I'm so sorry for what I've been. But I do deserve. It's like this back and forth between the two poles. Like I think it's sort of, I never go into a song thinking like, okay, I'm going to have the music be a metaphor, or like represent, reflect, symbolize the lyrics. Like that's not something I intend to do, but often it sort of just happens on its own. And that was definitely the case with this tune. I was making the demo for this song and I actually clicked auto-tune by accident on my vocals.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I had done like that sort of vocodery auto-tuney sound before, just playing around. I've always had a huge soft spot for it. Like I'm a huge Zapp and Roger fan, and
okay.
Like I love that weird vocodery sound. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I heard that and I was like, oh, that's great. Like I love that sound. It's gonna go in the song, and then it, when it blows out into the chorus, like it's a big relief to go from this like wow 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 tiny sound to like this big sound with lots of harmony in the vocal. But yeah, I mean, that kind of represents the two poles of like what I'm going for. I'm like apologizing and not at the same time. So
there is a theme going on in Henry Hall's music. There is two poles going on lyrically and musically. A good example of that, Not in My House, which just when I saw the title, I'm going back to living with my father. That line was used so many times growing up. That will not happen in my house. Not in my house, son.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Oh yeah.
But again, showing off your, as I'll say, your acting chops, even though you may not be a quote unquote actor. It's a very dark photo. He's pointing from the video. It's like, and I'm like, right away, just because of the backdrop, I'm like going, I've seen that done by Phil Collins. I've seen that done by Queen. It's a very powerful image when you get that right, and it works in the song, obviously.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you. That one was directed by my good friend Ethan Young, who's a really talented director. Many of his music videos like have hints of the stylization of that video and the editing, some of the editing things that he uses as well. We actually shot that in the place where my dad did his first ever play.
Oh wow!
In his middle school theater.
That's cool.
Yeah, the Marjorie Theater, Marjorie Luke, something like that theater in Santa Barbara, California. He reached out to them and was like, hey, could we use your theater since there's no one in it? And they were like, yeah, sure.
Sure, why not?
So they literally just opened the door and they were so unbelievably nice. They were like so happy to have people using the theater.
That's great.
It's just this gorgeous, like California style black box theater, California style in that like the actual audience area, it's like Spanish style and really beautiful. And yeah, man, we just like messed around with the lighting presets in the theater, and Ethan had a whole idea of what it was going to be in his head, and I just sort of trusted him and ran with it, and I had the whole thing choreographed, and we worked on that a little bit together, and it was fun. I can't, I can barely, I kind of have two left feet. I have like a left foot and like a half of a right foot sort of. So this was a nice way around me not being able to dance, just like using my hands. Sort of the polar opposite of like an Irish river dance.
A video you definitely need to check out. Again, subscribe to his YouTube channel. 3 of the videos from the album Nito are up on there. You will get one of them before we're done here, as we're with Henry Hall here on the A Game. We've been talking about your dad. Yeah. Now, let's mention him, because the best way to mention him, Ming, give me the poster from about 1995. I still, anytime this comes on cable, I have to watch it. I think the film, to your credit to your father, Brad Hall, this film is aging well. It really is. It's one of those, it really tapped into something at that point, because I think we all, at least growing up in my neighborhood, we were just starting to deal with divorce in the late 80s into the early 90s. So I think we all kind of, we were starting to understand what that was about. Where, you grew up earlier, it's like, divorce, what is that about? So I think your father tapped into something at the right time with that movie, for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, now that you mention it, that's definitely the case. I haven't seen it in a couple years, but yeah, I mean, my dad is such a talented, unbelievably talented guy. Like I'm so lucky to be around. You know, it's like having you know, a best friend around who's like interested in all the same stuff that you are, you know, who's like your roommate and also like, you know, your buddy. He's a really good musician too. He is like perfect pitch practically. And,
oh wow, I never knew that actually. Wow.
Yeah, or perfect relative pitch. Like he can't sing. It's like impossible for him to sing a wrong note. It's like really insane. But he can't. He's not like. He doesn't have that like freakish talent where you know you can like cough and he'll tell you like what note it is or anything like that. Right. It's not like quite like that, but yeah, man, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
I want to check. I want to watch it again. Like it's been a long time. It's one of good old Matthew Modine.
Matthew Modine was fantastic in the movie. Yeah. Paul Reiser did a great job. Randy Quaid before he went completely insane. You know?
Yeah, no, it's true, totally. He's like he's a very talented guy. Very talented guy,
no doubt. And it was a really good ensemble cast. Bye Bye Love is one of those films where, again, pops up on cable. I'm like, ooh. Where am I at in the film? Okay.
Yeah, totally. I listen to a podcast called The Rewatchables sometimes. I don't know if you know about it.
I know a little bit about it, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that they say is like, or a big factor of like what makes a film rewatchable is like if you're flipping through the channels and it's on cable, if you can just jump in at any time.
Yes.
So that we can consider Bye Bye Love a rewatchable.
It is totally a rewatchable. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And the funny thing is when it comes, I'm like, I know exactly where we are in this film. Thank you very much.
Yeah, totally. Hell yeah.
It's like, is it the date? Is it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm thinking about that line in the movie where they're going, oh, so this is the date. The date?
Yeah. It's so good to this day. I love it. It's awesome.
Good. I'm glad I could mention your father for that. Because again, that's a great accomplishment he did with that movie. No doubt about that.
For sure.
We are here with Henry Hall here on the A Game. Okay, up to random shots. Random questions, doing a little deep dive on his social media, came up with a few things. And yes, this is where we now bring your mother into the equation.
Bring it on.
And here we go. And this is the best way I can do it. Let's put you on the spot with your mother.
Put me on the spot.
Better TV show, Seinfeld, Veep, or The New Adventures of Old Christine?
Oh, man. That's tough. That's really tough.
I mean, it's no offense. If we haven't said it by now, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is mother. You know.
Yeah. JLD. Add official JLD.
Add official JLD.
I'm going to have to go Seinfeld, man.
Okay.
Just because I wasn't into, I was too young to watch it growing up.
Right.
But when I was in high school, we had a bunch of DVDs lying around. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going to watch a little Seinfeld. And then I became obsessed and watched every single episode. So I'm actually a fan.
Oh,
I remember. Yeah. And I sort of forgot, at a certain point, you sort of forget that it's your mom on TV and it's just a character. So I definitely had a few moments where I would binge 5 in a row, 5 Seinfelds in a row. And then my mom would walk in the door, back from the store or whatever. She's like, hey honey, how's it going? And I'm like, oh my God. Or there.
And now in stereo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was just watching a 2D version of you. But yeah, man. Yeah, no, I have to go Seinfeld. That's
and I would imagine it is. And I would imagine you've gotten this question a lot because of your mom. It's favorite Seinfeld episode. And I think that's an impossible question to answer. I mean, everybody's got 1 or 2 favorites, but they kind of pin it down to one. I mean,
I think, honestly, I do think it. So I'm a huge Simpsons fan.
Okay.
That's my number 1 show of all time. I watch it
Nothing wrong with that.
At least one every day.
Okay.
Practically, I'm obsessed. So because of the Simpsons, people ask me a lot, where should I start the Simpsons? What's the best episode, whatever. So I do think about that with a lot of shows because of the Simpsons kind of. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's a little tangent there, but I would say it's got to be the Yada Yada. That's the best.
Yada Yada Yada. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that episode is so good. It's insanely good. I also I kind of like it too when they leave New York.
Yes.
Like those episodes are hilarious and weird. They feel like more campy, kind of.
Yeah.
Like I love the one where they go to the Hamptons, or I don't know if they go to the Hamptons necessarily, but they go to Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah. With the ugly baby and so funny.
Good
I'm
stuff.
kind of blanking. I would quote a Seinfeld quote, but I can't think of any right now.
No, and unfortunately, the one that keeps coming to mind because I actually saw it on Facebook with somebody who's making a meme about something that's happening on the East Coast. So
Yeah.
the soup Nazi came up recently. It's like,
Oh, of course.
yeah, it's like, and again, he's been memed in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, no soup for you. I'm like,
Yeah. I think there's like a business that does it's like soup Nazi. You can actually go to like the soup Nazi soup place like in the city. Like it's pretty funny. Yeah.
Random shots with Henry Hall here.
Yeah.
This kind of segues into the next question.
Go for
When
it.
was that moment when you were a kid that you kind of started to realize, hey, wait a minute, my parents are kind of famous?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't I couldn't tell you honestly. I mean, you know what? I would say like when I looked at colleges on the East Coast for the first time.
Okay.
It was sort of a bad experience because people were, we were going to like a lot of sort of smaller like towns like on this Eastern Seaboard, Northeast kind of area, and like
we talking
people,
like toward New England or maybe more
like New England kind of area,
right.
like tri-state and like up in Maine and like places like that.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, people were, oh, that's my dryer being done. Like,
anybody want to question if whether or not this is live? That proved it.
It was very live. That's proof right there. And people were just like were really noticeably like, oh my God, like there's a lane, like that whole kind of thing. And I hadn't really experienced that to that degree anyway, because in LA, it's like everyone is in show business.
Right.
It's like being in a mining town and like everyone's in mining. So,
yeah. So by
it's
living there, it's your normal. So you don't know any better. Everything just feels, what you know. So my parents' friends and like my family friends and stuff, like everyone's sort of like in show business. So I never really like thought too much of it, to be honest. But there is I do have a little funny anecdote, which is when I was supposedly when I was like 4 years old in preschool, I asked a little kid, my mom told me the story. I asked some little kid like, so what TV show is your mommy in? Because I just assumed that like everyone's mom everybody's sure.
Like, like on TV. Just trying to break the ice.
Well, you know what? That was an interesting icebreaker. I got to give you that.
Yeah.
And at 4 years old, it's a very mature question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, conversationalist. Yeah.
Okay, on this one, Ming, there is an interesting outfit. He's in a sports gear. If you mind putting up that photo. This is from your video. Was that Proverbial Ice?
Proverbial Ice. Yeah.
And and you're in the hockey gear here.
Yeah, man.
The goalie equipment. And then there was an article that I read on you that you actually predicted that Saquon Barkley was going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft just a few years ago.
Did I say that?
You did say that.
I was one off.
You were one off, to your credit. First off, I don't think anybody thought Baker Mayfield was going to go number one. So when Baker did, it was like...
No offense.
So, well, now I think I kind of know the answer to the question just by the way you're kind of leaning. What sport do you follow? I'm guessing it's football.
It's football pretty seriously. Okay. Unfortunately, it consumes a lot of my life. And basketball too.
Okay, but would football, I mean, we're talking the Rams here?
Honestly, man, because I grew up without a team in LA,
right.
I kind of just follow like the league generally. Okay. But I would say it doesn't even have to be a gun, bat to my head, rubber bat to my head. I don't
rubber bat
to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
I do love a good 49ers West Coast offense.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I love the Niners, man.
Yeah,
and my dad's a huge Niners fan. He's a big San Francisco. He grew up in Santa Barbara, which is sort of Central California.
Yeah,
where you pick like you're either like an LA sports fan or like a San Francisco sports fan.
Sure.
And he was like, "Fuck LA, like it's so lame." So like he's oh, sorry, can I curse?
No, you
Probably
can't.
not.
It's a podcast, for God's
sake.
sake.
Okay. So he's a big Niners and Giants fan.
Oh, I'm sure he's looking at this Niners season and going, oh, we're so close. Now we're without our quarterback. We got to pray that Mullins can get it done. We're down.
Oh.
The Niners roster is like devastated with injuries and COVID. I mean, to their credit, the fact that they're over 500, I'm like, okay, you know what? I would have thought that their season could have just gone completely in the shitter, for lack of a better term, but they've managed to hold it together somewhat.
It's the fact. I mean, I think it's Shanahan and Brian Flores for the coach of the year of the Dolphins, because it's the fact that like we've pulled off any wins at all is insane. The Niners. I think there was some crazy stat like in that. Who were we playing? Was it like the Jets? No, it wasn't the Jets.
Oh,
Maybe
don't tell.
the
Jets. Yeah, that was just the way they ran against the Jets was like ridiculous. The Jets couldn't stop them.
Well, but we had some Thursday night game or something against the Packers. Sorry, it was the Packers.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single person on the field who touched the ball in the NFC Championship game last year against the Niners.
That's crazy.
That's how depleted they were. Yeah. It's pretty insane. It's like record breaking.
Oh, no doubt. And it's funny you bring up Brian Flores, what he's done in Miami. And first off, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, maybe the most fun guy to watch playing quarterback, even though
definitely.
He gave us nightmares as a Jet, although he had one great year. And it's like, did you have to throw 3 picks against Buffalo and we don't go to the playoffs? Thanks a lot.
Oh, God.
But he's really built something. He's real, and the team has bought into Brian Flores. So bravo.
For sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I think I mean, if we can go down the football route, come on, Dreyer, what the hell? He's trying to get his 2 cents in. The Dryer's a Giants fan.
Yeah, I think
can you guys talk about the NFC?
I think a mutual friend, Peter Onorati's a Giants fan. So
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I like the. I mean, honestly, I love the Giants uniforms. Are probably my favorite. Like the old, like the LT like ones, like the old school ones.
The old school ones.
God, like seeing like that, like old like Belichick footage, like when he was the D coordinator there, and like seeing all of them on the side, like Parcells and stuff, like in their gear, like that blue, white. Oh, it's just so cool. But yeah, anyway, the Dolphins, are really good. It turns out, or not really good, but
they're heading in the right direction without question.
I hope they beat out the. I feel like isn't it sort of? I mean, I hope I would rather see them play in the playoffs than like the Browns. The Browns just annoy me.
The Browns are annoying everybody because you don't know what this team is. It's like
you don't.
Either you're the best team in the league or you're the worst team in the league. There's no in between right now.
No, there's not. Yeah. It's so annoying, and that's sort of what Baker is too. He's like sometimes he throws with like 90% accuracy.
Yeah,
and then like the next game he's like he thinks he's like Russell Wilson and running around like crazy, and then he like throws the worst pick you've ever seen. It's like, oh God, it's a mess.
Right there, I am impressed that you are truly a fan. You know your shit, man.
Yeah, I do. Wait, can I get your Darnold take? What do you think's going to happen?
I got a weird feeling that if Gaze is out, which pretty much you got to figure, there's no way they're going to keep him right now with the team 0-9.
God, I hope he's out.
Yeah, I do too. It just hasn't. It just hasn't worked. Yeah. I don't think you're going to keep Darnold. I think you probably sit there and say we get about a 2nd and a 5th round pick, trade him. Yep. And then hopefully convince Trevor Lawrence, because we'll have the number 1 pick, that he will not stay for another year at Clemson and kind of go come to New York, be the savior, and let's see what happens.
I totally agree. It's like, why wouldn't I don't really understand this whole like, oh, he doesn't want to be a Jet. It's like, well, if they get rid of Gase, what's the problem? Like you get to like be in New York. And like you get to, I don't know, like I feel like you'll get like Brian Bieniemy or something, or like someone really, I don't know.
Eric Bieniemy.
I mean, sorry, Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, I knew you were talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. There are a lot of good coaches out there that I feel like are like looking for a coaching job. So
there are.
I don't know, man. That would be sick if you guys. I would really like. I would watch Jets games.
Yeah,
if you had. Trevor
it would make me buy a jersey for the first time in 5 years.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
2 more random shots with Henry Hall here. Let's go back to music because we were mentioning some of your musical influence. We've mentioned the Smiths, mentioned you covering the Jesus and Mary chain. if you had to pick a couple more albums from that 80s, 90s alternative era, what stands out in your mind that you had owned, listened to? Because I also know, being in LA, I'm sure you listened to the world famous K-Rock in LA at some point too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would probably go Unknown Pleasures, Joy Division.
Yes.
And then I think I would have to do Purple Rain, maybe. Little Prince.
Nothing wrong with
I like
Prince.
to sort of balance it out, have a little like rock and like soul R&B stuff. I have 1999 on the turntable right now.
I like the fact you said on the turntable. So we are talking vinyl over there.
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
yes.
Love that.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
All right. Wrapping up random shots, and I read about this, so you're going to have to explain it. When I say
Sure.
hot Cheetos, what does hot Cheetos mean to you, sir?
Well, when I was a little kid, I would do like a bit with hot Cheetos sometimes, where like I would, in order to bribe my friend to give me his hot Cheetos, he would hand me one, and then I would be like, water, like that, and like I don't know, like do as if like steam was blowing out of my ears,
yes,
and then like run to the water fountain, and like he thought that was hilarious. So that's how my parents never would have gotten me hot Cheetos, so that's how I got my fix of hot Cheetos back in the day. But there's a hot Cheetos lyric in my song More Tiny, and that's sort of what it's referencing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, it was something that was interesting to read about that. And I'm sitting here going, all right, I know there's a story here somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of the story. And it's just like, what, I would like to turn into a hot Cheeto. It sounds fun.
Henry Hall's debut CD is called Nito. Hey, Ming, give me some artwork here on the album, please. There it is.
Yes.
By the way, who did the artwork on this, by the way?
This is by Third Time's a Charm with the dryer. This is by Juliet Toma, a very, very talented Los Angeles-based artist. And that's a clean-cut version of me. No beard. No beard and well coiffed hair.
No, great artwork on that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm stoked on it. It's all of those little there's 13 icons if you don't include like the piano and the guitar, and each one corresponds to a song on the album, because there's 13 songs.
Exactly, and we're setting it up for the end here. When we talk about 13 Besties, in the video we're going to see a lot of Henry Hall. My question to you is, literally. Do you play all these instruments? I mean, how many instruments can you play?
I play, excuse me, I play guitar mostly, but then I also play bass and piano and a little bit of drums. Enough drums so that I can like sample myself and like program some stuff. But on 13 Besties, that's one of two songs on the album that's recorded with a band.
Good
so
stuff.
I don't play drums on it.
Okay, fair enough. And this is full disclosure. We appreciate that on here. We're about to fire up the video. This is the latest single from his album Nito. Go to his website, by the way, henryhallmusic.com.
Yes,
because there's some cool stuff, cool swag. Like I said, the Nito mask, I think, is one that I'm even going, I need to get one of them. That's cool stuff.
Get one for sure. They're lined up, ready for purchase.
Henry, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck on this. I know it's been a good journey to get to this album. I hope it brings you great success and some good airplay. I'd like to see some radio airplay on this at some point.
Yeah, man. Me too. Definitely.
Absolutely. All right, let's fire it up to wrap up this version of the A Game from the debut album Nito. Here is Henry Hall and 13 Besties.
Thanks, guys.
Test. All right, guys. Hey, Henry.
Henry.
Let's go.
I got what you need, Nelly. You can count on me. Kathy, anything for real. Freddie, put your trust in me. Raymond, anything you want. Amber, get for you to flaunt. Xander, just a twist of lime. And as time after time, Jonathan, I don't see why. friends do.